Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick video about what's currently in my gear bag. It is the fall here in the US, and if you're on the East Coast, specifically in my neck of the woods, that means you're enjoying that fall foliage. Some beautiful stuff out there. It's basically a canvas if you are a landscape photographer, and it only comes once a year, clearly, limited time frame. So the question is, do you want to travel light or heavy? In my case, when I do want to travel light, and I don't mean just an RX 100 or the RX 1, which certainly could do just about everything, but I need more flexibility without breaking out a backpack, this is what I go to. Now, I've covered the Mirrorless Mover 30i in the past. It is a good bag, certainly not for everyone, but it does accommodate a fairly solid amount of gear in a compact build and form factor, while still giving, I would say, a fairly ergonomic experience, and it really has worked well for me since day one. But let's get it open. And it does give at least what is marketed as a place for an iPad. You can see I've got a Samsung Galaxy Tab S in there right now, 10.5-inch tablet, and this is really a great device to review images on. Incredible Super AMOLED display, arguably the best display on any device ever made, let alone a tablet. So this is basically a photographer's dream review device for imaging as far as I'm concerned, and pretty much any user's dream device when it comes to looking at a fantastic display. So we got that out of the way, but that's one of the first components I have in there. And then if we dive a little bit deeper, you can see I've got one body, one lens, and of course this is in its own case to protect it from this lens. This bag does have some padding, but in order to get maximum performance out of it, I basically have stripped that down. There was a couple of dividers in here, cell phone case. I don't need any of that. My cell phone isn't going in this bag. But you can see already the big bomb over here is the 70-200 E-mount. This is a full frame FE lens, G piece of glass. Really one of my favorite. No question about it, expensive at $1,500, but when you look at what this piece of glass is capable of and how much less it weighs compared to its full frame peers, and it actually is less expensive than them, it really is an amazing piece of glass. Granted, it is a pretty heavy and bulky piece of glass attached to any E-mount camera, including the A7R I'm about to share with all of you, but still it is a winner. There's really no one who's picked up that lens who's come away upset. So let me move the bag out of the way. You can see some Zeiss wipes there in the bottom. Always good to have Zeiss wipes. I recommend them, I use them, and they're fairly straightforward. They can get expensive, of course. This bag does also have some additional storage right there, which I reserve for batteries, things of that nature. But let's talk about the cameras. You can see so far coming out of that bag, I've got the 70-200G, and then I've also got the A7R. I'm going to put down the tablet as well because I was holding it in the interim there. The A7R I keep in this case. Do I recommend it? Well, I unboxed it. I shared it with all of you. I think that it's a great fit if you plan to leave a kit lens on here, or in my case, the Zeiss 24-70, because that really is a lens that, at least for me, lives on this camera. Now, in terms of whether or not it's right for everyone, look, it's another expensive piece of glass, 24-70 range, but for what it is and for what I needed, it was the perfect complement to the A7R. I mean, this is still, in my opinion, to this day, one of the best full-frame cameras ever made. When you compare it to the competition, there still is nothing out there that actually can stand head-to-head or toe-to-toe with the A7R, except for other products from Sony. And since Sony fills the gap, or I should say creates models for different consumers, we have the 7S for video and low-light enthusiasts, 4K external capture with incredible low-light capability on that camera. Then you have the R for the user that wants the most resolution that Sony's mirrorless full-frame ecosystem has to offer, and then the traditional R, the entry level, that gives you unparalleled performance at a price that, again, is matched by no one in the business. And Canon and Nikon are attempting to play catch up. Panasonic has some interesting things with their GH4, but really Sony still has this market pegged, even with what I've seen launched so far. And Sony hasn't actually rehashed or refreshed the line, although I suspect we'll see something at CES. Nothing other than lenses has been added to the E-mount, no new bodies. I do also have the A6000 I wanted to mention, and this is part of what I carry around with me as well. And again, this is traveling light for those of you that already think it's a heavy pack. Essentially what I'll do is, since this body is so much smaller, it is significantly smaller than the full frame R that I rely on for most of everything. Keep in mind, no 4K here, and that's where if I was going heavy, then the AX100 would come out with me. That's when we move to a backpack or my larger camera bag, which I could share if you are interested. Go ahead and chime in the comments. But essentially, either with the 50 mil here, the Prime, which is a cropped lens, I'll leave that on, and this can actually fit in a pocket on the right type of jacket. I'm sure all of you know what I'm talking about, have a jacket like that. After all, this isn't that big of a camera. Or I will take the A6000 and put the 10 to 18 E-mount lens on it. Right now I have it on the 5R, and this way, this lens, for those of you unaware, even though it is designed for E-mount crop sensors, APS-C, it does work in full frame for a limited range on the R and every other full frame E-mount camera. So really, this is a great lens, still an incredible value at its now discounted price, probably one of the best E-mount lenses, in my opinion, one of my favorites, non-full frame especially, that just happens to work full frame as well, and that's why it will make it in my pocket. I mean, I traveled through Europe with this camera, the setup you're looking at right here that I'm holding in my pocket, no joke. Of course, it was a cargo pocket, but it still fit, and it was secure. I had to be careful, but the idea is that if I can bring out this bit of gear that I just showed you in the Mirrorless Mover 30i, and then have this in my pocket, with the A6000 preferably. I used to keep this on here exclusively because of the full tilt screen, but now having the RX100 Mark III kind of eliminates that need for me, which is one of the reasons the 5R may end up getting sold one of these days, if the price is right, because it is an old favorite of mine. They don't really make them like this anymore in terms of the form factor and overall quality. Sony has really chopped up the business because DI is one of those areas they're doing really well. But just to have this in my pocket on the A6000, that's another great piece of kit to complement all of this. And then in the event that I do want to, do a lens swap beyond just the zoom and the 24 to 70, I have that capability. And then with the incredibly fast autofocus on the A6000, which is best in class for mirrorless outside of the GH4, these are really the two fastest cameras out there. You've just got a winning combo. So again, that's traveling light for me right now. I know it may sound crazy to some of you, but this way I'm keeping the 7R protected with the full body case. Again, it's not the best case. Sony certainly charges too much money for a leather case. It is real leather though, unlike a lot of their other cases that are in the same price range. But I think it's worth it to protect this. It is a pain to pull this thing off to get access to the battery. Sony was smart enough to put the NFC contact point on it, which is great. But considering we can't even get access to the memory card over here, it's not the best solution, but hey, it works, it's ergonomic, it keeps the camera protected, even though it's weather sealed. I like having another layer of protection. It still is an expensive body, and part of also why I'm doing today's video is that these cameras are going on sale. The 7R is definitely getting old now. It's not graying out or anything, but it's got some age, and again, nothing's been launched to really take it out of the market. Really only to complement it because it is that good. The same applies to the A6000. We haven't seen anything new to trump its capability from anyone in the marketplace. Granted, I wish some of these cameras would get a firmware update and unlock at least XAVCS video, even if Sony won't bless us with 4K. But still, this is not only a video about what's in my gear bag for that fall foliage, but also what you might want to have in your gear bag, because with the softening in pricing on all of these cameras, they represent insane, I would say in some instances, deals, insane in terms of the quality you're getting for the money you're spending, because with other camera manufacturers right now, you just cannot touch this sort of balance of performance and form factor in any way, shape, or form. Of course, there is some catch-up being played, don't get me wrong. Sony has set a standard that for several years they've been working on, and now, just really now this year, we're seeing other manufacturers finally step up. So we'll see what happens with time, but that pretty much rounds out at least my update on my gear bag. SD cards, by the way, usually stay in my pocket. I have a case for those, And generally, I don't carry that many because I stick to some large capacity cards. A lot of people don't like to do that. I'm not going to get into that argument today, but that pretty much is all that I need when I'm out and about trying to get some great shots, again, in this fall foliage kingdom. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.